So flag salute. In recognition of free speech and the following board agenda item, we welcome all and would like to note that saying the Pledge of Allegiance is not a requirement to participate in the business of this public forum. If you do not say the pledge for religious, political, social, or personal reasons, you are most welcome here as an equal participant in the business of this board. Okay, for those who would like to participate, please stand. Salute. Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Announcement of action taken in closed session. There was no action taken. Moving on to adoption of agenda. Do I have any motions on this?
Move to approve the agenda.
Okay. I actually would like to pull item 13 to the consent agenda.
Move to approve the agenda as amended.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any other requests for changes, friendly amendments? Okay. Roll call vote? Since we're all here.
You can do general consent.
Okay. Do we have general consent? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Approved as amended. Adopted as amended. Okay, moving on to organization reports. We have Vanessa Mason, President of CUTA.
Hi, good evening. We had our rep council meeting today, and the great thing that occurred was that every school side was talking about field trips. So some went today, some are in the future in the next couple of weeks. So it's really exciting to hear that some things are getting back to normal. Field trips are being taken, lots of retirements happening. So again, life's going on, and exciting times for people like Mr. Jackson. He's on the agenda for retirement tonight, as well as many other members. So congratulations to all of them, and we're counting down the days. Ms. Woods, I don't know what's the number.
They said 26.
Yeah.
No, wait. I said it and everyone in the room yelled it.
So we're on the countdown, and then we look forward to starting summer school on May 31st for the students that want this little summer learning going on. That's it. Any questions?
Yes, can we decline or can we not approve the retirement, Mr. Jackson? I'll second.
He might object.
Yeah. Pull back on the consent. Yeah, what's on the consent agenda?
Yeah, pull back on the consent.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, President of CSEA, Naisha Harris.
Hello, everyone.
Good evening.
The classified staff would just like to thank the district for the opportunity to earn double pay for working in summer school this year. And that's it.
You're welcome.
Oh, that was... Okay, thank you very much.
Star Wars. So there she is.
Sorry. Computer glitches.
Yeah, that happens. Okay, moving on to reports and presentations. Mike Jordan with the Williams Uniform Complaint Quarterly Reporting.
All right, good evening. I'm happy to report there are no reports for this quarter.
All right. Thank you very much. And committee updates, curriculum instruction, special education update, Mr. Mike Jordan.
Actually, I'm going to defer that one to my next presentation, which is down on number B, if that's okay, or C, excuse me, business item C.
Okay.
Is that okay if we do that all together?
Absolutely.
Yes. Yep,
Okay,
that works.
thank you.
Okay, facilities update with Richard Putnam.
Good evening, everybody. So for facilities, we have, as you saw, a new roof on the building here. We have some fresh paint going down Center Court Lane, actually on the high school campus property. We had our groundbreaking ceremony for Rex Fortune. For those that were able to make it, thank you. For those that couldn't, I really wish you guys could have been there because it was a really good groundbreaking ceremony. Dr. Fortune was a pleasure to get to talk to him and meet him, and it was a good time for the district. And we actually had some community members from those immediate neighborhoods actually showed up and were there to kind of see what was going on as well. So that was very nice. And even with the inclement weather, the construction is moving along as planned. And that is all that we have for facilities right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just say, Mr. Putnam, that was a wonderful job that all of you did on that.
Carol did a lot of the,
Carol,
Carol did a lot of the behind the scenes and getting everything else done, coordination. Angela in my office also played a big part, and then the rest of us just kind of ran around looking like we were. So I want to make sure that the people that really did the most work truly get the recognition.
I'll have more to say on that later, but it was a wonderful event.
It was.
Thank you for everything you put into it.
You got it. It was my pleasure.
Okay. Moving along, comments from the audience regarding items not on the agenda. Anyone may address the board regarding any item that is within the board's subject matter jurisdiction. However, the board may not discuss or take action on any item which is not on this agenda, except as authorized by Government Code Section 54954.2. A speaker shall be limited to 3 minutes, according to Board Policy 9323. All public comments on items listed on this agenda will be heard at the time the board is discussing that item. Okay, do we have any public comments?
None in here? I have 2 online.
Okay.
I have 2 online, and the first one is Sophia. Sophia, I'm going to allow you to talk. Please unmute your mic.
Perfect. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Hi, my name is Sophia. I am a program advisor for TRIO Educational Talent Search through American River College. We serve about 11 schools and 3 school districts. And one of the school districts we serve is Center Joint Unified. So I wanted to make a quick public comment to talk a little bit about our program and what we offer to educate parents, school staff, and any community stakeholders about our events. But our program, we serve low-income first-generation students from the 6th grade up until 12th grade, and we work to support and motivate them to succeed academically in their current endeavors, as well as to plan for their college and their careers and just their life outside of high school. So how we do that is we offer educational workshops. We also offer career exploration, college exploration. We have virtual events, in-person field trips, and we also offer summer courses. We serve about 500 students in the Center School District, so we work with students at Wilson C. Riles Middle School and students at Center High School. And we have some really cool things planned for the summer. So if you have any questions about TRIO, ETS, or any questions about how we can serve Center students, please feel free to reach out to me. Again, my name is Sophia Yarkovich, and thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sophia, can we get your email address?
We can make
Yes, yes. My email address is the letter S, and then my last name, so it's UGARKO, V as in Victor, ICH, at centerusd.org.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Perfect, thank you.
And we have another public comment?
Yes, I have. Oh, it disappeared. So I guess I do not have any more.
Okay. Okay, moving on to the consent agenda.
Before we do, Can I just ask, if the person accidentally got bumped, can we go back to public comment when they come back on, or
That
can we
seems,
leave this item open?
that
The
seems
hand keeps
reasonable.
going up and down, up and down, up and down, so I don't know.
Okay. Well, let's keep the public comment
Yeah,
open.
if they're having technical difficulties, we can be flexible. Okay. Consent agenda minus item 13. We have general consent. Okay.
Move to approve
Thank
the
you.
consent agenda as amended.
Appreciate that. Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay. And do we have general consent? Okay. And so consent agenda minus item 13 has been approved. Moving on to item 13. I just wanted to have a brief disclosure on this item. The company in class today that is the subject of this item, I wanted to disclose that I do have a working relationship with them through my day job. I'm not very familiar with their work, but I do send them data on a regular basis. In fact, I'm currently troubleshooting some issues with our data going to them. But, you know, just in the interest of disclosure, I wanted to put that out there before we vote on this. So, okay?
Move to approve item 13.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Roll call.
Yeah, let's do roll call vote. Trustee Anderson?
Aye.
Trustee Pope?
Aye.
Trustee Kelly?
Aye.
Trustee Lee?
Aye.
And just in the interest of fairness, I will abstain, and it has been approved. Okay. Information items. AG completion improvement grant plan. Do I have a motion on this?
And these are just items of information that it's really just to put it out there. We needed to make sure it was agendized for the A to G part of the process for the grant. And then second one, the Upward Bound. I just, to be honest, want to make you aware this is a part of the TRIO grant. And I want to just make sure that you guys saw that we were taking some of our students, or actually our students could attend. It's not necessarily our field trip, but I just thought it was worthy of you guys seeing that we do offer this great opportunity for our students through, which was perfect timing, through the TRIO and ETS. And we didn't plan that, but.
So we don't need to do a motion to discuss? Okay. Okay. So moving on to business items. Business item A, resolution number 2122, resolution calling for general district elections, Sacramento County.
Do we not have another discussion item, number 14-2, informational item, upward bound program?
Those were the two that I just mentioned. A through G was just the grant we had to put out.
Man, I missed that. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Where was I?
It was quick.
Okay, thank you.
Speed talker here.
Didn't realize you covered them both in one meeting.
One breath.
One breath. Okay, so business item A, do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
What's the motion?
Second.
What's the motion?
Approve.
To approve, okay, and we have a second?
Yes.
Okay,
Can I just make a brief comment just so the board and community is aware? So our district sits within two counties, and annually, or not annually, when election cycles come up, we must certify the board saying that we have seats that are up. So this item, business item A, is the district calling for the general district election for Sac County for the 3 seats that we have on the 2022 cycle. And then B, which you'll consider next, is the Placer County component, the second thing. So just so people are aware, it's just calling for the election.
okay, so is there any discussion on this item? Okay, should we just call for
Just
general
so
consent?
it's gotta be done.
Any public comment would be the only.
Oh, sorry, thank you. Any public comment on this item? Okay, do we have general consent?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, so that is approved. Moving on to business item B, resolution number 232122, essentially the same thing for Placer County.
Move to approve.
And do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. And
Discussion.
what Scott Ware said is this is just to get it on the ballot. So do we have any public comment?
It appears I do have one.
Oh,
It's a phone number, so the person with the 415 area code, please unmute your mic.
Hello,
hello.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, actually, there was some type of glitch, and I wanted to make public comment on items that were not on the agenda.
Okay.
Is that still open?
Yes, we're being flexible on that because we recognize there was a glitch, so we will go back to that. Could you please identify yourself?
My name is Ms. Connor.
Okay, thank you.
And I just wanted to make a quick comment. If possibly you can work with Douglas Elementary School. They're having their open house, back to school night in May, I think it's May 12th. And I think they're very late in the school year to do something like that. And normally events like that take place in the fall. So in the future, I would hope that it would take place earlier in the school year, preferably before December. So that is my comment at this time on items that is not on the agenda.
Okay.
What event was she speaking of? The open house.
Open house.
Not back to school, but open house.
And open house, she says it's too late in the year.
I think it's,
That's what she said. She said it's coming up and she
Not
feels that it's too late in the year. She'd like it to be before December. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, going back to business item B, do we have any discussion on that? No? Okay. Do we have general consent?
yes.
Okay, approved. Moving on to business item C, diversity in elementary curriculum. It's an information discussion item. Do I have a motion to bring this to the floor?
So moved.
Okay, and do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. So, Mr. Jordan.
All right, good evening. If I can, I'm going to take a 15-second bird walk here. Although I knew Mr. Jackson was retiring, it sunk in for some reason when you guys mentioned that to me. I just want to say, hey, Mr. Jackson, Steve, I've always had utmost respect for your insights, your opinions, everything, just the way you handled yourself. So thank you. Appreciate it. And you have the best laugh in the history of so thank you. Appreciate you letting me indulge that. So tonight we're going to start talking about diversity in the curriculum. This is a huge topic, obviously, that could go on for hours and hours. So think of this as the beginning. And the last slide you're going to see, the last part of our presentation, is where do you want to go next on this journey. So tonight I've narrowed it down to diversity in the elementary school curriculum, and specifically the curriculum that we adopt, and specifically social studies. So if, could you please? Thank you. All right. And I'm going to be the first to admit I cannot match colors to save my life. So if this is not color coordinated, I'm not on here. All right, so diversity in the elementary school curriculum, specifically social studies. So all the social studies curriculum at the elementary level is developed using, actually at the K-12 level, is developed using the guidance of the FAIR Act that came out in 2011, and that stands for the Fair, Accurate, Inclusive, and Respectful Act. And what this did, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this, is put the guidelines for what is diversity, what does it mean within the curriculum, what needs to be covered by the curriculum, what is it that teachers can and cannot do within that topic in the curriculum, and what are the responsibilities of school boards when they adopt curriculums. So just to give you a quick idea of what the process is for adopting curriculum, at the elementary and actually at the middle school level as well, the state vets all the curriculums. Then they give you a choice. And then you go as a district, out of those choices that the state says you can pick from, and you pilot a few. And then out of those, that's what you pick. So in our case, we adopted our social studies curriculum in May of 2019. And again, that's materials that have already been vetted by the state to make sure they met, in this case, the FAIR Act. So what is diversity in terms of the FAIR Act? How is it in this law. How is it defined? And I'm going to read this word for word. I know you all can read, but I want to make sure that I don't skip anything accidentally. So under the FAIR Act, diversity is defined as instruction in social sciences shall include the early history of California and a study of the role and contributions of both men and women, Native Americans, African Americans, Mexican Americans, Asian Americans, Pacific Islanders, European Americans, lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender Americans, persons with disabilities, and members of the other ethnic and cultural groups to the economic, political, and social development of California and the United States of America. Big breath. With particular emphasis on portraying the role of these groups in contemporary society. So they've defined, in the longest sentence known to the English language, they've defined what diversity is in the curriculum. And this will be not only a social studies curriculum, but in all the curriculums that we adopt. And I added the coloring and the underlining. That's not part of the law. That was my emphasis. Then under the FAIR Act, the direction it gives to a teacher. So a teacher shall not give instruction, and a school district shall not sponsor any activity that promotes a discriminatory bias on the basis of race or ethnicity, gender, religion, disability, nationality, sexual orientation, or because of a characteristic listed in Section 220. So they're giving guidance to the teacher, and now they're going to give guidance to the state board and local boards. The state board and any governing board shall not adopt any textbooks or other instructional materials for use in the public schools that contain any matter reflecting adversely upon persons on the basis of race or ethnicity, gender, religion, disability, nationality, sexual orientation, or because of a characteristic, again, listed in Section 220. This is going to, 6041, this is going to further define what needs to happen in the curriculum and what is included in our curriculum. And I'm doing this as the baseline, the background, and then I'm going to show you some examples of our curriculum. And if I could get you, Lauren, to help me click the things once we get there. We're about 2 slides away. Appreciate it. Okay, when adopting instructional materials for use in schools, governing boards shall include only instructional materials which in their determination accurately portray the cultural and racial diversity of our society, including the contributions of both men and women in all types of roles, including professional, vocational, and executive roles. The role and contributions of Native Americans, African Americans, Mexican Americans, Asian Americans, Pacific Islanders, European Americans, lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender Americans, persons with disabilities, and members of other ethnic and cultural groups to the total development of California and the United States. The role and contributions of the entrepreneur and the labor in the total development of California and the United States. So they're kind of expanding on their previous definition. And then this is back to this local school board. What is it under this act that you're responsible for? So the governing board shall not adopt, or a governing board shall not adopt any instructional materials for the use in the schools that is in its determination contain any matter reflecting adversely upon persons on the basis of race or ethnicity, gender, religion, disability, nationality, sexual orientation, occupation, or because of a characteristic listed in Section 220. And then it's going to go on again, and you'll see they're slowly expanding. Now they're talking about occupations. That wasn't in the other parts of this. And I'm almost just showing you our actual curriculum here. Bear with me. I see the shot clock's not going down, so I still have 3 minutes. So this comes out of the frameworks. So we deal with the standards and the frameworks. And right out of that, and I'm not going to read this one, but if you could please, Lauren, if you could click, oops. I got to click first. There you go.
What about item B in the previous slide?
Did I skip something?
Mm-hmm. I mean,
that sectarian or denominational doctrine, did I skip that?
Yeah.
My apologies. Doctrine or propaganda contrary to law. Jumped ahead there. If you could you click the green, I think that is? Thank you. So this is one of the links I put in there so that parents or whoever can go and see the actual frameworks of what it talks about. This is a super long document. We don't have time to go through this now, but I want to give that as a reference for you to look at. This is what the curriculum is based on, are these frameworks. Uh-oh, I can't click anymore. There we go. Okay, so as part of the adoption, in any adoption, and in this one as well, we actually put the curriculum in the annex building, which is, well, here, but specifically in the next building right up there where the curriculum instruction office is, so anyone can come in and view it. We probably had 8 to 10 families come in and view this, the curriculum, Studies Weekly, which is the social studies curriculum. And some spent, an hour or 2 hours going through it and looking through it. In addition, Mr. Laird, Mrs. Lawson, and myself, we went through every single one of the Studies Weekly pages. They're like little newspapers. We went through every one, which was a lot. 52 times 6. Okay, so now here we go. The parent brochure. Again, could you click the CDE Elementary Social Studies? And again, here's just another resource for you to look at. I'm not going to go through it right now. And then there's a little survey they'd like you to take at the top to give them feedback. This is from the CDE. All right, if you could go back, please. Thank you. That's some good teamwork right there. All right, so now, finally, to some examples. So what does this actually look like? How does this Fair Act actually look within the true curriculum? So Studies Weekly, instead of a textbook, it's, think of like the old Scholastic Reader. It's like 3 or 4 pages a week. And then it has the topics for the week that you would go through, and it's full of graphics and pictures and that kind of stuff. So in the kindergarten level, how you're going to see the Fair Act portrayed is mostly in pictures and their graphics, and I'm going to show you examples. Because kindergartners, obviously, they're not reading much yet. Could you type on the kindergarten, please? Could you tap on the week 4? I'm walking over to the link, you can see that. The very top one, there you go. All right, so this is week 4. So you're going to see in the pictures, they're going to talk about, they're going to show kids of different racial backgrounds, ethnicities, so on and so forth. And you're going to see their topics are, everyone is important. And they're going to talk in this week's unit about, we need to value everyone. Everyone's important. Every opinion's important. Could you go to the next, there's a little arrow on the side of that. Next, there you go. So they're going to talk about what is fairness, equality. We need to be kind to everyone. It's very inclusive. We need to be kind to everyone. And when you look at the pictures, you're going to see there's a student with Down syndrome. They're trying to look at the pictures and the graphics and cover all the different areas that they talked about in their definition. If you could click in the next little arrow, and you'll see even in the graphics, whereas before, to be honest, it used to be all Caucasian kids. You're seeing it a little bit different now. Of course, you're always going to see Ben Franklin. I don't know why. Next, I do know why. I'm a social studies teacher. I should have said. So you can see here there's more. They're going to show families. They're going to show different configurations of families. Sometimes it's 2 dads or 2 moms. They're going to show it in pictures again, and graphics. Could you click again? Thank you. And then obviously there's a teacher and the kids. And so next one, this is week 14. Go ahead, please. Thank you. And they're going to go through again. And we'll kind of click through these quick now. There we go. It's just full of pictures. And that's where you're going to get it. And then this next part, this is just all the standards that it covers, what the teacher needs to know, not for the kid. This isn't part of the kid packet. All right. If you could you go back to that previous? Thank you. Could you hit grade 5, please? So obviously by 5th grade, kids are reading more. And so there's going to be more depictions of this or examples of this in the actual writing portions. And in this grade level, they're going to do it in, I'm going to call them short biographies. So if you could click the arrow thing. There you go. One more time. There we go. Mr. Bruno, could you read the Pontiac one? So they'll have these little, can I step over here? All right.
No.
They're gonna, yeah. Well, what I done just said no, I don't know. They're gonna have these little things here, so in this case, it's Pontiac, and they're gonna talk about their role. If you could click on that, I wanna touch it, but I know that's not gonna work. Keep going through. We're gonna go to add, keep going. Keep going. There, stop. Oh, backwards. There we go, remote. So Crispus Atticus, he's going to talk about the role in the revolution and how he was fighting for freedom. He was an African American, and they're going to talk about their role and how important it was in the revolution, and so on and so forth. And I know you can't read that, but you have a link to it, so you can get to it. So you kind of get the idea. They're going to have these throughout, and they're going to have those for all different groups within that definition as you go through the different weeks of the study weekly. All right, if we could go back to the main. There we go, perfect. Okay. So this, obviously this is brief. We could have a college course on this and go for hours, but this is the beginning. Look at social studies. I want to know, are there any questions on the social studies curriculum or in diversity as it relates to that? And then I'd like to get guidance for next month. What is it that you want next? I want to make sure I'm addressing the question, but I want to make sure I know what the question is that I need to present, if that makes sense.
Can you share with us, Mr. Jordan, about how much time in each instructional day approximately is spent on social studies? I mean, it's very in-depth what we've seen, but how much time is devoted each day in elementary school classrooms?
It's going to vary, and I don't know if it's going to be day to day. There may be a bigger chunk of time. Our main focus in the beginning of the day is going to be math and reading. And so this isn't going to have us hours like that does, but they're going to have a chunk of time to get through these each week. And sometimes that may be, maybe we do it Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Some teachers may do a little bit every day. Some may do it 2 or 3 days a week to get it to fit in. Where if there's a math test and something else, it's going to take more time. They may need a little time for that. Does that make sense? So I can't tell you like every day in every class from 11 to 11:30 they're doing this. I can't tell you that.
My next question is as a kind of a follow-up, because it's really easy to show diversity in social studies, because of the FAIR Act and just the curriculum framework that's been adopted. But I'm curious of how these social studies weeklies are being used, because I'm aware of classrooms where these are literally just passed out on a Friday and the students look at it for maybe 10, 15 minutes. There's no direct instruction around it. So is there consistency in using of the very diverse lessons that are provided with the program? They go really in depth. How often are those being utilized?
So if we were to go through that teacher section, which I didn't go because you can't see it first of all, and it's long, there's a little teaching section for each one of those. So for example, for Crispus Atticus, there's a whole section of here's how to teach about this little biography. And then he's actually in a couple of the little quizzes that they have and a couple of the other little things. Mm-hmm. So as the teacher's going along, they actually have a built-in lesson plan for each one of those sections, if you want to call it that. Mm-hmm. So in that case, they would have an example, okay, not example, here's a lesson plan for this part. So here's what you can pull out, here's what you would do with this particular biography. And then in the next little section, whatever, Ben Franklin, whatever it is, here's what you would do with this. So it's very uniform in terms of the lesson plans are right there. They're built in. And that way, honestly, that gives everybody the same information, which can be good. And if you're a teacher, you may say that kind of hinders my ability to be creative. So there's good and bad to that. I don't want to make it sound like it's perfect. But that's how this particular curriculum works.
And do the students take the assessments for each week, and do we have access to that data?
I can check into that. You're talking about the little quizzes?
Yes, there's quizzes on each article, quizzes on the weekly, overall that week. It's an assessment, so if we're really rigorously using it, we would have that data from the assessments as well.
Let me find out. I don't have access to that. It's not in Aries or anything like that where I could pull that up, but I can find out.
Thank you. Yeah, because that would kind of move away from just giving it out and never even talking about it if there was accountability of those scores available as well.
Sure.
had very similar questions to what Dr. Lee was asking, is the variation between, okay, this is great curriculum, and is it being used? So how do we build that accountability into the process to make sure that there is some consistency across the use of the curriculum? And I don't know the answer to that. Luckily, you're an expert on that kind of thing, and not me, so just throwing that question out there that, what can we do to not, we don't want to come down on people like, why aren't you doing this curriculum, but just making it easy for us to see that there is some consistency. And I like the idea of having the data of the quizzes. I would think that, it wouldn't need to be 100% for each class, but, just making sure that it's not being handed out at 3 o'clock on Friday and saying, here's some reading materials for the weekend, because that never sees the light of day out of the backpack, so, yeah.
The other component I wanted to add was Mr. Jordan is sharing our social studies, and the FAIR Act does apply to all curriculum. Right. So as we come back with adoptions for ELA, for math, you're going to see those components throughout. So while I agree, I think there's staff, teachers out there that will love the freedom to say, hey, I want to do more social studies or whatever. So I think that's out there. But I didn't want to lose sight of, this is not the only way that we address diversity within our day there. And it's throughout. When we start seeing the new math adoption and the new ELA adoption, it's definitely more apparent than the previous. So just to point that out.
This is not going to be a popular question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. How did we get from social studies to why somebody has 2 daddies?
Family structure is part of social studies.
So, but it's, I think if I can answer that, try to answer that, I don't think it's about that. It's the representation, it's seeing images of different things and even talking about it, but it's not teaching of that. Does that make sense?
Normalizing that those family units do exist.
Correct.
And that's
and that it's
in the
okay
law.
That those exist.
It is, correct. There's not, to my knowledge, there's not an article or something about that, but they're depicting it in pictures, so if a kid is sitting in class and that is their life story, then they feel like, okay.
Well, that part I understand, but I wouldn't classify it as social studies.
No, the FAIR Act is about all curriculum. I'm sorry, maybe I wasn't clear. The FAIR Act is about all curriculum. I'm just picking social studies because it's freshly adopted. Even though the FAIR Act came out in 2011, it takes publishers a while to catch up. I mean, it takes them years, to be honest.
And sorry, that was my point. That This is going to be consistent throughout our curriculum as we go forward. It's not specifically teaching, but it certainly is law that you can't not. There's certain groups you can't go against. Correct. So that's the point. But it's not. Social studies was just the example, and we wanted to get a starting point so we can show that there are things happening. Can we get better? Obviously, everyone can get better at what we're doing. But this was our first one that really, I think we adopted that actually had to comply with the FAIR Act.
Yeah, 2019, right before.
So I think math is our next one that we have coming up, if I'm right. So you'll see that, but it won't be math teaching about family structure. It will be examples within the images or the word problems or whatever will be representative of all based on the FAIR Act.
I think that structure that's behind all the curriculum is about, just making sure that we're having representation from all walks of life, right? So that not necessarily, we're not teaching about, maybe we're not even teaching about the family unit in social studies, but the representation there is in the picture so that it is normalized, so that it is representative of the of reality and accepting of that.
Or to phrase that another way, when you're in the social studies curriculum and you're depicting a family, you're not automatically assuming that it's a male, female, parents, 2.5 children. You're just showing a family, and another time you're showing a different family, and just like all families in our community have different makeups, these families will have different makeups sometimes too.
That's fine, I understand that.
And a good example in that kindergarten one that we showed in the beginning, it talked about equality, which in kindergarten terms, be nice to everybody. And then the pictures on that page, there's all different colors and male, female, and a kid with Down syndrome, and just be nice to everyone. That's what it's trying to get to. It's not gonna say, look, in this picture, this kid has two dads, or whatever. It's not gonna.
And you also see the students with disabilities.
Correct.
I mean, there's you know,
The full-
student with Down syndrome, so there's different representations. It's not just one thing. And so I think the idea behind the FAIR Act is if a student could look at a picture, let's say, and identify that, oh, that looks like me. That's good, versus it all being a similar.
You know, Mr. Jordan, given that so much of their day does revolve around English, language arts, and math, you asked what we would like to review next. Possibly one of those core subjects and how diversity is reflected in the curriculum there might be helpful for some of our constituents who have raised the question of concern around this topic.
And I would further, I'm sorry, Steve.
Actually, that reminded me, we never asked for any comments on this, so before we get too far into the discussion, we should probably do that.
And can I just tag on to Dr. Lee's
Sure.
comment? I think that's where I was going with it too, is also the educational piece of when we go to adopt, you might not see the same representation in the curriculum that we adopted previously, but when we come to the new one, you'll understand why the approved materials are what they are, and so you'll notice it, because like our ELA curriculum, while there is some diversity within it, it's not the same as what we see here.
Yeah. And it will be good to get a hand on the pulse of what is in our classrooms right now by looking at what are we currently doing, and then we'll be able to see as a board the shift in the future adoptions based on the options that are available to us.
And one, sorry, I'm going to go on a commercial here. One thing I would really advise, and I over the years, I know I've worked with some of you longer, I advise come in and spend some time looking through the materials. I know board members in the past, I've given them stacks. Delra, I'm looking at you. I know I've given you stacks of them, and you're like, well, really? I'm like, here's the whole spectrum. Go for it. So I would advise either come in, or we'll get samples when we get to that point, because that is another big decision that you guys all make, and you should be extremely well informed and feel comfortable with what it's representing.
Yeah, just to speak to that, I came in for the science curriculum, and it was very fascinating. I kind of wish I was back in high school so that I could take some of those classes. But yeah, no, really good idea.
Okay, before we continue the discussion, do we have any public comments? No? Oh, we do have a public comment.
Right.
Right behind you.
Okay, please approach the podium.
Hi, my name is James Anderson, parent of a student in elementary within the district. First, I want to thank Dr. Lee. Your point about how much of this is being provided to the students, is it just an afterthought? I'm so glad you made that comment, because I think this is very important, and the way that the district and the board is addressing diversity and how to represent that, I just love it. I'm a big fan of it. It's positive. It's helping people understand that there's more than just one kind of person in the world. So I really appreciate it, and I appreciate the direction the board is going. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, any other public comments before we get back to the discussion? Okay.
So, only because I'm a task person, and I know Mr. Jordan is too. So what we would look for bringing back, what the board's interested in, is looking at our ELA and math, ELA one time, math later, just some direction to see, and maybe what it is we can bring the overviews of some of the curriculum we have and then get that going. We can see how big of a presentation that'd be and then kind of guide it out for you. Math might be the next one to look at, because math is on the next horizon for us to adopt. But I'm open for any. That just seems logical, because I think we could start piloting next year with math.
And are we talking about elementary? Are we talking about middle, high school? What?
I think a variety of sampling.
I would personally prefer to stick with elementary for now. Kind of go through elementary and then middle and high school. But I don't know. I can be flexible on this.
One of the things that I'm interested in is the differentiation between having diversity in our curriculum and having curriculum about diversity. So I think that's probably gonna come in at the high school level more so than at the elementary, but I'm definitely interested in seeing those two aspects, so that there's a clear understanding that we have diversity in all of our subjects. We're talking about, great mathematicians who were from India or whatever, and we're also teaching what is diversity. So two different things. And I don't know if we are teaching what is diversity, but I'd be interested in seeing what we do in that arena.
At the high school level, there isn't like a semester course called
Diversity.
But ethnic studies is coming, which is going to be in that realm.
Ethnic studies.
Now that's, what year? It's like 2 years away.
Yeah, so if we pause that for a minute, look at the elementary, as you
Yeah,
say, and then that is coming up, ethnic studies will come up, because by 2020,
It's like 2 years.
we have to adopt a
Right.
course of study for high school students. So there will be, for graduates, it's the law that there'll be a requirement to take ethnic studies courses. So that will be coming, because we want your input through that.
So, by that, are you saying that we don't actually have anything in that?
Not a specific
Not a
course.
specific,
I'm not talking about
like
a specific course necessarily, but just within the existing courses, are we talking about diversity itself, as opposed to presenting a diverse curriculum? Do you understand what I'm saying as far as the difference?
Are we talking about diversity? Yes. Is there a purchased curriculum on, called diversity or something like? No. If I'm not sure I'm understanding the question correctly, but there's not a course or a specific curriculum. Is it talked about in classrooms? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, are we teaching about the topic of diversity as opposed to teaching a diverse spectrum in a particular, so like, you're teaching about math, are you talking about the contributions of a diverse, people throughout history? That's one aspect. But if you're in English, and are we talking about what is diversity, right? And teaching about, does anybody understand the difference that I'm trying to make? The point that I'm trying to make here. I guess it'll come up with ethnic studies, but is there something similar to that being taught that's not necessarily a specific curriculum, but part of other curriculums?
The curriculum is the.
Right. So I would
It is the
say that
pathway
it
to
is
bring diversity.
That's a good way to put it. There isn't, I couldn't go to a class and say on the second week of November, we're going to have this lesson on diversity. If that's what is that what you mean?
No.
But I can say it's coming up in high school classes, yes.
In the conversation.
Right, in conversations, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the teachers do it on their own, they bring it into their own classroom and teach
Correct.
it. When it fits into the curriculum.
Yeah, I think it will formalize more when we get the requirement for the ethnic study course, but now I would say it's more informal throughout. But like you mentioned, Kelly, about math, I know I see in middle school and high school math class with contributions from people from all, and I know that's not it, but they would obviously at that point talk about the diversity as it relates to that, but like identifying and, discussing, debating, that might come up in some English classes, but I can't put my finger on a specific one that would say, yes, this happens every.
Just defining what is diversity, what is equity, what is equality, and having a course of study about that topic, as opposed to having diverse examples of mathematicians. Two different things, right? And so I beat this dead horse too long. We'll move on.
One of the things I appreciate about the FAIR Act is it does define diversity, because I think that means different things to different people.
Correct.
And the word equality does too. When we saw the definition for equality in that kindergarten, I'm not pointing there, that's me, but when we see equality, it said, be nice to everybody. I don't think that's the first thing that comes to mind when I think of the definition of equality, but to a kindergartner, that makes perfect sense.
Yes, correct.
Mr. Brenner, just to let you know, because there is a lag on our video, we do have a public comment now, I believe.
Oh.
So just so you're aware.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and hear the public comment.
Okay, so it's a call-in listener. Again, it's the phone number starting with 415. Please unmute your phone.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, I'd like to thank Mr. Jordan for the presentation. However, I'm disappointed in the fact that the people that were portraying the presentation are the same people I saw growing up, and that's been quite a while ago. And I think that California can do much better. Basically, it doesn't say anything about the Black Queen that California is named after. It doesn't say anything about, even just within the state of California, the contributions that people of African descent have made. I mean, the city of Folsom was founded and it was owned by a Black man. And I can go on and on and on, but I'm not going to do that. There's something in your home that was created by an African American. If it's the filament and the light bulb, if it's your heating and ventilation or air conditioning, the rotary blade in your lawnmower, or the refrigerator trucks we see on the street every day when we're driving. There is something in your home that was created by an African American. And the emphasis I say American because not only African Americans, people of color have been left out. I didn't experience any of this from Dudley Elementary School. I would like to know, in terms of all of your schools, do you have a picture of the president, vice president, the Latino senator, Alex Padilla, as well as a picture of Senator Dianne Feinstein? I mean, are we telling the children about the contributions of people of all colors thing? I know about the Irish and their labor giving us the 5 important lakes in Lake Michigan. I know about the Afro-Cubans who built the Panama Canal. A lot of them died. I know about the Asians who built the railroad system. A lot of them died and they would just throw them over there and continue building. But I feel my question has not been answered. Parts of it has been addressed. But overall, I am trying to say that it's just American history. It's not so much as African American history or Asian American history. I didn't see anything during Latino Heritage Month. I didn't see, I apologize, Latino Hispanic Month. I didn't see anything about Native Americans. I don't think kids understand the importance of them being code breakers in World War II and how that was crucial to the United States and Europe winning that war. So I am just saying that in today's terms, I'm not looking back to 200 years. I'm talking about in contemporary times. And I do know that people of color, especially if you look at Ken Burns and the PBS series, people of color are left out. And I'll just say this, even women. I mean, most people don't even know that the original astronauts trained by NASA were women. And it was John Glenn who persuaded NASA to use men. And that's very important. In addition to the movie Hidden Figures, where the African American women did calculations without computers to project how long and the distance to get to the moon. And John Glenn relied on one of those women's calculations to bring them back from orbit. And another movie I will say lastly that I think kids should see is October Sky, because it's about kids who grew up in the coal mining area and their teachers did not inspire them to go on to college. You can go work in a coal mine like your father. But they had 2 really good teachers whom they came across, and it was 4 boys who had some ambition, and one of the 4 boys went on to become one of the most renowned engineers in NASA. So I am talking about contemporary issues and just exposing your children to all of these people, to all of the segment in society. And if you don't have a picture of Congresswoman Matsui, Senator Alex Padilla, Dianne Feinstein, the Vice President and the President, they will send you one for free. And thank you very much, because this is an ongoing subject. But thank you for putting it on the agenda finally. And lastly, Dudley Elementary School updated their weekly electronic mailer, and they did put some things in there about people of color, but it wasn't there before. So thank you, and I hope this is an ongoing issue because I'm just talking about Americans in general. Thank you very much, and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so as far as planning what to discuss next,
Elementary, English or no?
so let me ask this question. How big would the English and math components be? Would it be better to space them out into individual meetings or do them both at once?
I guess it would depend on, like, let's take English. What would you want me to bring in? Pieces that are written by diverse authors? Would you want me to bring in, pictures like that at kindergarten level? What would you want me to bring in to present specifically?
Samples of how the curriculum aligns with FAIR Act, and basically like what you did today with social studies. That was
Okay.
very useful for me because you crosswalked it with the act and why we're doing it, so people understood it better.
In that case, can we pick one? That's gonna be a bit light.
And I do think, Mr. Jordan, since we covered the FAIR Act, I think we could come back and give a brief slide to refresh new people who haven't seen it, so we don't have to do, and then that would give us a little more time, so it's not, and I'm not disrespecting the beginning, because I think that foundation was important, but it might help if we can try, and then we can always try just one this time, and then maybe if that's the case, we could look at science and ELA next together, whatever. But that, at least that gives us some direction.
We're in a rush to do it,
Well, no, but I think the one that's interesting is with us coming up to an adoption very near, I really think it's timely that you all, community knows what we're doing in the process, because it's amazing, a lot of people don't know. We'd love to have more people active. 8 to 10 was probably the most people we came to look at the curriculum, and we were excited about that, because it means people are wanting to see it, and be honest, some liked it, some didn't like it. But they want to see it for themselves, and that's the process.
In addition to moving on to a new subject, it would be nice to get a follow-up on some of Dr. Lee's questions, which I guess just one question about the data for the quizzes, just to know if that exists, and if it doesn't, then maybe we can talk about next steps.
And we can put that all into one presentation, if that works, we can start with that and roll into that, just let it know.
Can we go with English?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Do you have a preference? Let's go that way.
Are you trying to get us to answer your question? Yeah. It's like herding cats.
I won't sleep for the next week if I don't know. It's a quirk of mine, sorry.
Okay.
English, samples of elementary English curriculum as it in regards to the FAIR Act, similar to what we did tonight, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And maybe pick a different class level than 2nd and 5th this time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was it kindergarten?
Kindergarten and fifth.
Isn't that what I said?
You said second.
Oh my gosh. I don't know where that came from.
We all understand pretty well.
Okay, any further discussion on this?
No, but Mr. Jordan, I truly appreciated this.
Yeah.
It was very enlightening.
Good.
So thank you for taking the time to bring it to us.
Very much.
And thank Dr. Lee for putting it on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Ms. Connor.
And Ms.
Ms. Connor, yes.
Yes, Ms. Connor.
And really looking for more community input on the next conversation. So, I mean, it was nice to have Ms. Connor's comments, but I would definitely like to, and yours, sir, to have more. That would be very useful.
And it was good to mention that the public can look at the curriculum at the curriculum instruction office, because I don't know if everybody knows that.
And I think
Yeah,
we
see,
can even
Mr.
do,
Anderson, didn't know.
and then we also have the online, I mean, most of them are online versions, so we can publicize those as well as we have on our website, stuff like that, but we can put those, we can ramp up our efforts.
Maybe
Like what I showed you tonight, those are right off there. That's public access.
So we can point them to the way, these are the ones we're looking at, and then.
Very good, yeah. Thank you. Awesome.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to item D, Board Bylaw 9220, Governing Board Elections. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the the new resolution with one minor correction, where it says nest instead of next, which I believe has already been corrected.
It's already been fixed. Yeah, it's a typo.
Okay. So you're motioning to approve. Do I have a second?
We don't want to have any discussion?
Well, I mean, we'd have discussion after.
After the motion.
Sure, yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a second. Just an introduction, this is the ongoing discussion of the board member annual residency verification language. And before we go into the discussion, do we have any public comments on this issue? Okay, so open for discussion. You said that the correction that you wanted made had already been made?
Yeah, it's just a typo. It says nest instead of next, that's all.
Okay. Any other discussion on this? Okay. So should we call for a vote? Should we do roll call vote?
Sure.
Okay. Trustee Anderson?
Aye.
Trustee Pope?
Aye.
Trustee Kelly?
Aye.
Trustee Lee?
Abstain?
And chair votes aye, so approved. Okay, moving on to business item E. Resolution 24-2122, resolution continuing Board of Trustees authority to hold virtual meetings pursuant to AB 361. Do I have a motion on this item?
A motion to bring it to the floor for discussion.
Okay, and do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. And as a brief overview, this is the AB 361 authorization. I believe we put it on the agenda because Dr. Lee was thinking that for our workshops, it might be good to have that option to allow that flexibility.
We should have known that sooner. I canceled my vacation.
Yeah, if you come on vacation, we can reschedule.
No.
Necessary.
Okay, so before we enter into the discussion, do we have any public comments on this issue? Mr. Anderson.
Hi, James Anderson. I'm just wondering if there's, and obviously you can't answer this or respond to this, but if there's any way to make this a permanent fixture of the board's capabilities to hold meetings virtually and have virtual attendance, and it just seems like it'd be a lot easier to have a permanent resolution. I'm ignorant to a lot of the laws. And
So actually, because it is an item on our agenda, we actually can respond. My understanding, and please feel free to correct me in the likelihood that I'm wrong, is that this is basically in response to the COVID pandemic, and essentially we would have to renew it every 30 days, I think it is. So
It's part of the Brown Act.
it's an emergency authorization. However, we are planning to continue the streaming and public comments through Zoom because frankly, I find those to be very helpful. So.
And we were advised that we could legally do that,
Yes.
so. Yeah.
So essentially this is on limiting board member behavior, but we're able to keep that provision open.
Thank you for
interacting with the public. So
that's perfect. Thank you so
okay,
much.
thank you. Okay, any other public comments? Okay, discussion on this issue.
So,
Is there any discussion?
Well, I'm just trying to figure out here exactly what
We're basically trying to renew the ability to work, to attend meetings virtually. And since Dr. Lee brought this to
But
the agenda.
once we drop the videos, we don't have to do this every month, right?
This was asked to be put on the agenda because in terms of doing the workshops and things, the flexibility might be nice to have.
Yeah, but
For
we get
some
some
of us
of the
with health
workshops where we're
risks.
there.
For some of us with
I mean,
health
it's-
risks, the increased time and contact time, that would be an accommodation for them.
I just think it's much more valuable to be there in person. To the entire district, and to ourselves. That's my opinion.
And
So,
frankly, I can see arguments on both sides on this. I do think that we are more productive in person, but at the same time, this is a serious concern, and, you know, having gone through COVID myself, it is not something that I take lightly. So
I don't know why we connect workshops with COVID though.
it's the increased contact time in proximity, she was saying. So,
It's probably less of a chance to get COVID from a workshop than there is from a board meeting, because there's just us there.
Which is why we've continually extended the virtual, the ability to do virtual, because we don't want to put people's health at risk if we don't have to. But
Can I ask the union leaders that are here a quick question? Are your meetings, are they virtual? Do you have some virtual? Do you have, everybody has to be present? What is your protocol?
For the rep meetings, we have them in person. We don't even stream anymore.
You don't?
So if a member wants to attend, they're welcome to, but they would have to attend in person.
Thank you.
In some ways, I think it defeats our purpose.
I kind of agree with, I agree with both sides of this, Nancy. I understand, and I feel like, gosh, the minute Dr. Lee started showing up to meetings in person, it really changed the dynamic, and I really appreciate that. However, we do have a new variant that is trending, BA2, and we don't know enough about it yet to know where it's going to go. So if we extend this each month, then it gives us the flexibility.
But we're not extending it for regular board meetings.
We're
It's
not,
just
but
workshops,
it
just to clarify.
does leave it open for, I mean, all meetings, right?
No, it would just be a workshop.
it would depend on how we.
You could structure that
Could
how,
go either way.
you could structure that with just altering it, and we can make note that, I mean,
I just
the
think
the
it's
other
good
thing
to
is,
have that flexibility.
it
but-
does become a collective agreement with the group. If you got, I mean, to me, that's what trust, that's what all it's about. If we say, hey, this would help on these meetings, then to me, it's the trust that you guys are all starting to build. I think, you know, we've all been present here. You know, the other thing would be is if this doesn't pass, I would work with any of you to make sure you feel comfortable in the room. I mean, we could really come back to this room and
We
be
could still,
spread well. I'm just saying, we can accommodate.
we can still meet virtually as long as we provide our address.
Yeah.
Or the
But
location of where we're going to meet from, and so you could technically meet from another room
yeah.
at the school and list that address and be by yourself.
And we have discussed
The,
it.
the obstacle, I'm just, that's where I've got it. The obstacle with that is it does still allow the public to come in and be in that room. So if it's a health thing, that is part of it, just like.
But will they?
But
That's highly unlikely.
highly unlikely, just like if
Highly
you posted for your home. I don't know, and all the time that I've been doing this, I don't know if anyone's ever shown up at hotels or homes, but there is a possibility. I mean, so if it's a health risk thing, that's the only, I just want to put that out there, that if it's concerned, I wouldn't want just basically anybody can come on in. So, but if there
Well, so
is,
you could put a sign up on the door that says, I'm meeting virtually
I'm contagious.
due to health risks. And
Well,
let
you're
them,
right for board, you know you're gonna have to attend board meetings. I mean, it's part of the package.
yeah, but you shouldn't have to risk your life.
You're not risking your life.
There
Our
are
kids go to school every day. I mean,
still
it's under
dying
control.
from COVID, and if you are a person who is, of higher risk for whatever reason, you are risking your life. And
If
yes, I
there is a
understand
reason, but
that teachers are risking their lives every day. There are
There's
shootings, there are
reason to do
illnesses.
that. If
I
there's a
get that.
reason.
But if there's something that we can do to help prevent an illness, I just think that it's good for us to have that flexibility. I mean, I don't think we're ever gonna agree on this. I understand what you're saying, the dynamics are 1,000 times better when we're all in the room together. Being able to look at you and know that you're looking at me, I'm looking at you, and I'm not looking at a screen where I have no idea if she sees, you know, my facial expressions or not. It makes a difference. And I don't know what the right answer is to this.
If there was
So I
a
think we should
legitimate reason,
call
I
it
would
a-
be with you.
Okay, as Delray pointed out, we need to be better about not talking over each other, so let's
Sorry.
please work on that. I do have a question about this. Dr. Lee, what is it about the workshop that you feel makes a higher risk than the board meetings?
Board meetings are once a month. We're being required to come in more than once a month to attend these workshops, and they're for lengthy time periods. So that is a concern, just the equity in that for people, for all of us, and the risks that we're taking needlessly with all of our health.
It is also a smaller room.
But we could come
A
here,
closer
as Mr. Lara said, we could always have our workshops in a larger room, keep the doors open, have the fans on, would be an option. And if somebody chooses to do so, they could stay in the annex in a different room.
Yeah.
And highly unlikely that a public person would come to that particular room as opposed to a boardroom of 4.
So we're looking for compliance with coming to a room instead of being remote from any location. That's what it sounds like we're really focusing on.
No, that's just an option that would be allowed, because then that address is what would be posted on the agenda as opposed to someone's personal address, which we clearly don't want.
But if AB 361 was adopted, then the address would not need to be posted.
Correct, that is the differentiation. If we pass this resolution, you can meet virtually without posting your address, and if we don't pass it, then you would have to post your address of where you're going to be for that meeting. So it could be Starbucks, it could be, which would be.
Right.
Right.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
it could be any address as long as that's posted and you're there. Should we call for the vote? Please.
Okay. Let's call for vote. Trustee Anderson?
There was a motion to bring it to the floor.
Oh.
So that's all.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for the correction. So do I have a motion for a vote on this?
Or you have to have what the motion is,
Right.
to either approve or
Move
a
to
motion
approve or
to.
move to decline, to reject. I'll move to approve.
Okay, and do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so trustee Anderson?
No.
Trustee Pope?
I don't know.
I don't know either, I'm like, I don't know.
I don't know. I think it's very important that we all, especially during workshops when we collaborate, it's very important that we're all together. But I don't want to be the person that says, oh, we all got to come and somebody gets sick. I don't want to be that person either. But it is very important that we're all together. We do so much better.
Exactly.
So, can we table this for another month? And I know we have a workshop on Saturday. I guess that doesn't happen.
Well, that agenda. Agenda's open.
Right, so
How
just,
long
just
is the
to-
workshop going to be on Saturday, do we know?
Can I answer that just in 2 seconds, Dr. Lee? But we do have a motion on the floor, so if we want to, there is a motion, so if we want to pause that motion, we have it slated from 9 to noon. But I don't know if the board will need that much time or not. I don't know.
Dr. Lee, have you ever been to the workshops?
Okay, wait, hang on. Procedurally.
So we do have a motion on the table, so I don't know if there's other questions around it, but we probably should finalize that before we talk, and then unless there's other questions, Ms. Pope, that you might
May
have
I
had.
ask a question?
Are we gonna hold on for the motion then?
We're
So
right in the middle of the vote,
Yeah.
the motion, so I don't, procedurally, we
procedurally,
really
I'm-
have to.
we have to complete the vote? Okay, so procedurally, we have to complete the vote.
Oh, so you're waiting for me?
Sorry.
Could the motion be withdrawn, President Bruno, or is that not acceptable?
The motion can definitely be.
Yes, it can be
By me,
withdrawn.
Okay,
since I made the motion.
okay. Because, the time was explained to me a little bit better.
Because maybe if you make a motion to withdraw, you can always
I will
come.
withdraw my motion.
Okay,
So then we have to.
so now we can go back to
Sorry.
discussion.
So can I answer Dr. just Sanderson, if I can, Dr. Lee had mentioned, so you guys had originally said last month 9 to noon.
Okay.
And then the idea right now, it is posted for room 5. So that is a portable building. That would have, we could do, there's actually these tables and these chairs, so we can put every person at their own chair, space it out. There's good ventilation, there's 2 windows on each side, there's a door. I'm just trying to describe the room, and I know you've all been in a portable before. Actually, it would be, I think Ms. Hunt will be joining us, and Mr. Jordan might be joining us, so it's not just the 6 of us. So that just gives you a little idea, and obviously the public is welcome, so I can't say that 45 people wouldn't come historically.
But that's.
Saturday morning at 9.
It's also going to be on Zoom.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Dr. Lee, have you ever been to any of the workshops?
I've been present at every workshop.
Pardon?
I've been present at every workshop.
Okay. Because it's,
You mean in person?
yeah, in person is what I meant. Because I think if you actually went, you would see what we're talking about.
I've been present at every workshop.
Yeah, but zoomed in. But if you were there in person, it's totally different. I think you would understand what we're talking about when we say that it's important to be in the room and be with each other as board members. It's a bonding experience and it builds the board.
I think we just have different understandings of presence and bonding,
Maybe.
and I can appreciate that. Thank you.
Trustee Pope, can I add to my previous comment? I just wanted to say, I mean, our meetings are in person now, but if we had a member who was on our site committee who had a health concern, we would offer that link to the person to join virtually. I mean, we don't have to post addresses, but I do believe it would be their personal choice whether to join in person, and maybe that morning they want to join in person, and maybe that morning they would prefer to join online and post their address. I mean, really, the motion makes it available to all of you to make a personal choice on your health and safety, and that's what we want for our teachers and staff, is to make choices on our personal health and safety. Not that we have the choice to not come to school every day and be in a portable with 30 kids, but I mean, if it's possible and that individual wants to make that choice that day and post their address, that's on them as a personal choice. So I would add that if my member had a concern, I would make it available to have a link. So.
But I've never heard there's a health concern. There's a health issue.
Well, a concern about catching a virus would be a health concern. So I would add that caveat to my previous statement.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I'd like to make a motion that we table this item and just plan it in person as we're planning for Saturday.
Were the times still okay with you?
And I would also say if the constraints, because I mean, I know we all have families and different things, if something has changed, we don't have to go all the way until noon kind of thing. So if we realize we get in there and it's like, hey, I gotta be out of here by 11, or I'm making up stuff now, you get my point. I think we would all agree we would end the session if we're at a point where everyone's collaborating, work together. I think the work that we're planning to do is pretty important, and I think that we should all be, a board meeting should all be present if we can accommodate that. I know typically it's just a quorum, and then you move forward, but I think identifying belief statements, things like that, is critical, that everyone at that table has a voice. And I would secondly say that if anyone would like more assurances or comforts or whatever, we will do everything we can to make people feel as comfortable as possible. So I want to put that out there.
Oh, go ahead.
Thank you. I would also like to state that when the variant, and I'm not sure if the concern, Dr. Lee, is COVID or if it's other viruses, but if the virus, the next variant comes and it's as terrible as the others, then let's bring it back and we can have another discussion.
And we always can put this on the agenda and discuss it again.
We could even call a special meeting if we needed to.
So Superintendent, as far as making accommodations within the room, if a trustee would like to have more physical space around them, can things be rearranged fairly easily? Or?
These tables are on rollers, and I can move them anywhere we want.
So I'll second the motion to table this.
Okay. General
I mean, I
consent
don't
to
think we
table?
need a vote.
We do need a vote.
You just general
Oh,
consent.
we do need a vote.
So
So what's the verdict?
So general
We're gonna
consent,
table it.
we're just gonna table this.
Okay.
So general consent on that, everyone?
Yes. And thank you for being accommodating.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Moving on to board and superintendent reports.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, we're moving fairly quickly here. Trustee Anderson.
First, I'd like to comment on the ceremony for Rex Fortune. Rex Fortune is an amazing man. And I didn't even realize how amazing he was when you first brought this up. I mean, to get into his history and really find out what he's all about is incredible. He did a lot for Center. In his days here, for 15 years he was here, and he brought Center from its infancy, really, into the big suburban district that it is today. It was about half the size that it is today when he came. And he forged forward with the programs and grants that got us to where we are today. A lot of grants that came into the district. And I'm thrilled to death that we could name a school for him and that he's still alive to appreciate it. That's really what makes the difference, I think, is why honor somebody after they're gone? They don't even know you've done it. But to see him standing there and realize that he's being acknowledged for what he's contributed to the kids for his lifetime is amazing. And he truly has given his life to kids. And he has his own schools. I don't know if you guys realize that or not, but the Rex Fortune schools that he's developed all on his own that he runs. So I'm looking forward to the day that the elementary school is built. We can walk through it and see all the wonderful things that it brings forward to those children. 850, I think, is the number of children that will hold.
Could be up to that, yes.
Yeah. So that's fantastic. It's going to be great. And Mr. Putnam, I thank you and all of your men and women who have worked hard on that, and I look forward to seeing it go as it progresses every step of the way. It'll be awesome.
Thank you.
And Mr. Blair, you as well have done a great job. Leadership has been outstanding. So, and Carol, I know you put in a lot of work too, so I don't want to leave you out. So thank you. The ceremony was fantastic, very well attended by the upper people from Roseville.
Representative?
Yeah. Yeah, upper representatives. Scott, you know who was there. You want to spell out their names?
Sure.
I don't remember them by name.
Well, we had Roseville City Councilor member Scott Alvord. We had a representative from Placer County District 2 and Placer, and then also Bonnie Gore from District 2. So this school is in actually, excuse me, I might be mixing them up, but her school is actually not in, that school's not in her district. However, our district does cover a lot of her things, and also Superintendent Garbalina Mojica from Placer County. So it was a nice turnout to support us.
Yeah, and then Rex Fortney had some of the kids from his school come in to watch the ceremony, and it was just a really nice morning for everybody. I really enjoyed it. Mr. Jackson, when is your last day?
You're not gonna retire. It just occurred
Are you staying for the end of the year at least?
I'm sorry.
You're staying for the end of the year?
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay. We got time to harass you then. Other than that, just hang in there, because the end of the year is coming faster than we realized. It's right on us. School will be out.
Trustee Pope?
Thank you. I apologize, it's gonna be over my time limit, just a warning.
No, no.
Yes, I got you. So I attended the Spinelli 9th Annual St. Baldrick's event that was hosted by Mrs. Luigi. The students, staff, and family, raised almost $10,000 for childhood cancer. So congratulations to Mrs. Luigi and Spinelli. Mr. Lair and I did tour Spinelli and North Country. At Spinelli, Ms. Opfer introduced us to Sunshine. Sunshine is a baby chick that hatched earlier in the week. There was a family within Spinelli that donated eggs, and the children got to watch and come and rotate to see the chicks hatch, and it was so fun, excited to see them, and they were so engaged, and it was the highlight of the morning. Other than going to North Country, where STEM was in full swing, the students were engaged and busy with their Picasso art. There was students that were learning the fundamentals of engineering and design and computer science. And then we stepped out back and I saw that beautiful playground once again, which is a beauty. So a lot of fun going on with North Country. We took a detour to Antelope High School where Miss Carrie Green and her students were playing baseball. And I just want to commend her because it was organized and they practiced, and there's going to be many events again with the Big Buddies and different schools around the community. I must say that the Center High School Bishop recognition was very impactful, very emotional, and Mr. Kiwi did a very good job. On a lighter note, I want to congratulate the Center High School Drama Department on their rendition of Rumor, which it was so funny. I laughed so hard. And my husband said, we have to go to more center events because I'm having a really good time. So kudos, Drama Department. I did attend the Top 10 dinner for Center High School, and congratulations to those students. Thank you to Ms. Buller, who created the event and did an amazing job. The food was fantastic. One of my favorite events to attend. I too went to the Rex Fortune groundbreaking ceremony, and as Nancy said, it was a great turnout. I'm not going to talk too much about that because I'm sure you will, Mr. Laird, but I personally want to thank Carol and Angela for their success on the event. It was beautiful. We had people also comment that this was the best groundbreaking ceremony that they had been to, so that says a lot. I want to thank the Center High School Band for attending, administration and staff. There was a lot that attended, so thank you for taking your time out of your day to come. And a special thank you to Kevin Coons and the team and his team of the Maintenance and Operations Department for setting up and taking down the tables, chairs, and canopies. And then lastly, so I guess it wasn't so long, but lastly, I had an employee ask a question about our legal fees and why it seems so high this year. So a couple things, I'm not going to elaborate too much on it, but I wanted to talk about this for a little bit. And I got to thank Ms. Coronado because I wouldn't have been able to talk about that without her help. But legal fees are categorized as follows. You have facilities and contracts, you have negotiation, general advice, complaints, personnel, which includes special education. All legal fees are funded out of the general, or paid out of the general fund and posted to Lisa's department, which is the business department. So the legal fees aren't charged to a certain site or a department. It's all out of the general fund under Lisa's department. Now, if you look at this year compared to the last 2 years, 1920, 2021, of course, there was not much activity because it was the COVID years. But if you look before 2019, we are still kind of low, in the low range with our legal fees. Even though for, with the acquisition of the land for Rex Fortune, which we haven't had that for 18 years, we're still a little bit on the low side with our legal fees. So if anybody has any questions, I do what I did, set up an appointment with Ms. Coronado, or not legal fees, but anything in general with the business department, and she will explain everything. She's just a very wealth of information, so thank you, Ms. Coronado. And I hope this answers the question for the person that asked. And that's my time.
Thank you very much. Trustee Kelly.
Thank you so much. So it's been a busy month. Yes, we attended a wonderful play. We attended the dedication for Mr. Bishop. We attended the groundbreaking ceremony. There's something else that we missed.
Play?
What a play, and Bishop, and pardon? Top 10 dinner. That was very well orchestrated, very interesting. The students gave great speeches. It was a really wonderful event. And, you know, everyone's already spoken about everything, but just ditto. All of the events were fantastic. And yes, we need to start going to more events because that was the best play. It was so funny. And one of the main characters was actually in the top 10, so that made it even better because we had a little association there. So
right.
It was nice. Looking forward to Purple Cord coming up soon. And like Trustee Anderson said, end of the year is in our very close to view, so right over the horizon.
Can I make one more comment?
Sure.
Thank you. As our union representative stated, you know, field trips are in full swing, and I tell you, the board loves field trips. So when we get to do this fun stuff, it really makes my day. That's it.
Thank you. Trustee Lee.
Yes, okay, so happy Arab American Heritage Month to everyone. To those in observance of the spring holidays, happy Ramadan, happy Passover, happy Vaisakhi, happy Hanuman Jayanti, happy Theravada New Year, happy Easter, and happy Earth Day. Many things happening this spring, all at once, around this month of April this year. And thank you to our school site administrators for ensuring that our Muslim students, faculty, and staff in observance of Ramadan through May 1st this year, who may be fasting, are receiving the appropriate accommodations. This is much appreciated by our community members. Thank you to our constituents for raising important questions about diversity, equity, and inclusion in our schools. I also find this to be very important, and I'm very appreciative of the things you brought forth. I also want to thank community members that expressed to me concerns about some of the contradictions that they see in our board governance policies. I have been asked multiple times why some of the same members have occupied seats on this governing board for decades, and so I researched the issue, and so far, the answer I found that makes the most sense is that our board bylaws do not provide for term limits, which means the same folks can occupy these trustee positions for decades on end. I agree with you all that there's no reason why our school board should not be aligned with the principles of effective governance that are central to our representative and constitutional democracy. And by that I mean term limits for our governing board members. In my research of this topic, I discovered that the elected officials in virtually every level of state, county, and local government in our area have term limits, including Sacramento City Council, Roseville City Council, Sacramento County Board of Supervisors, Placer County Board of Supervisors, as well as state government agencies, including the California State Senate and Assembly. Term limits are a common and proven good governance practice. Term limits help limit corruption. Term limits are vital to ensuring that new people and underrepresented groups can participate in governments. Term limits provide a continuous refresh of energy, ideas, opinions, and skills to a board. In my research of this topic, I discovered that term limits have been enacted in a number of California school districts because people are waking up and realizing that term limits are necessary for equitable and effective school governance. I note that the move toward term limits has an established process that is outlined in the election and ed codes, And so this proposed action cannot be willy-nilly enacted by a board without voter consideration, which is something I really do appreciate because it involves the voices of the community members, all of them. This is why this evening I will submit to President Bruno and Superintendent Laird a draft resolution requesting the counties of Sacramento and Placer place a measure on the November 8, 2022 ballot to put the question of term limits for our board before the voters so that the voters can decide if our community values and desires to establish term limits for our governing school board. Based on the requests of our constituents for more effective governance, leadership, and accountability, I am requesting that the term limit resolution that I will submit to President Bruno and Superintendent Laird be considered for action at our May meeting in hopes that it will be as swiftly approved as amending our bylaws to impose annual eligibility verifications upon our members, which was approved by the board majority. To me, term limits represent a stronger and more promising step towards public accountability, greater inclusion, and transparency that we have not yet taken as a board. As with Board Bylaw 9220, I'm hopeful that district legal counsel can be consulted to review this draft term limit resolution so that it can be revised with their input. And tomorrow I'll also forward a digital file of the draft to both of you to expedite that review so that we can hopefully take action on this draft term limit resolution at our May board meeting. With that, my next virtual open office hours are Monday, May 2nd from 4 to 5. You can access that Zoom link on the board website, and any and all members of the community continue to be welcome to drop in anytime during 4 to 5 p.m. first Mondays. I look forward to connecting with you. Keep the great ideas coming, and in between that, be safe and be well. And this is the draft of that resolution, and I will send you a digital copy of it as well. There's one for you and one for Superintendent Laird. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. A lot going on this month, as been mentioned. First of all, to Mr. Jackson, I want to say thank you very much. When my family came to the district, we were enrolled at Dudley, and I'm not sure if we were principal there when we first enrolled, but very quickly thereafter, you're the principal, and I just really appreciate all of your contributions to this district, and thank you very much. But unlike some others, I'm gonna agree that you deserve this.
You didn't say birthday.
Well, but
You just want to be selfish.
It's fair, but so one of the things that we did this month that I really enjoyed was the dedication ceremony to Mr. Bishop and the play, as has been mentioned. I laughed so hard at that play. It was so much fun, and the dedication was quite moving and very powerful. And then, as we were waiting, one of my kids' friends was actually in the cast of the play, so we ended up giving them a ride home. And as we were waiting for them to be ready, I was in the lobby of the theater, and I noticed a little dedication plaque for the theater signed by the board, including Trustee Anderson. I was like, she really has been doing this for a while, and I appreciate your experience.
Thank you.
The top 10 dinner was also really powerful. A lot of laughs, a lot of fun. I was really struck by how supportive those students were of each other. Mm-hmm. They really had bonded so much, and what I found interesting is the shared experience of doing school virtually actually created a different sort of bond there. And they really seemed to have done pretty well. Now granted, not all students did as well with it. I'm glad that we're back in person, but it's really nice to see people making the best of the situation. Unfortunately, I missed the groundbreaking ceremony. I wanted to be there for that, but I had previous plans. But I heard really good things about the crew that was transporting the musical instruments. I heard they did a good job. So And then I'm looking forward to the report ceremony coming up. That had actually slipped my mind, so thank you for the reminder. And one other thing I wanted to mention to the unions, I really appreciate the relationship that this district has with its unions. At my day job, we just went through a period with a strike of 2 unions. And it's so much more pleasant for everybody involved to be able to work together better. And I appreciate the healthier dynamic here. And so thank you to everybody involved in making that work. And that will wrap up my report. Superintendent Ware?
Well, gosh, by having me go last, I guess everyone said a lot. So I just want to echo the events that we've had this month have been fantastic. The tours, getting around and seeing the schools and the students, it is what it's all about. It's incredible. You know, I think over COVID, as we were in our own offices doing things, it's so nice for us at the district to be out and be able to see kids, to know why we're doing what we're doing every day. And I'll tell you, it's been reaffirming. You know, I just keep showing up at schools going, I'm just going to walk around just to see the kids. So anyway, and then the groundbreaking, I do want to give kudos to Carol. I did walk in there and I go, I'm not good at these things at all. I don't know what I'm doing. And within 10 minutes, Carol had 20 different things printed out of what we can do. And Carol hit it out of the home run on that. So thank you, Carol, for doing that. Carol was there putting up tents, putting up everything. So I appreciate the effort to go above and beyond to make that happen. And we did have Mark Rawson with CPM, who's one of our project consultants, who was going to a second groundbreaking the same day. So I tell you that because he attended multiple, said to me and Carol, it's the best groundbreaking he's ever attended. And Mark's been in the business a while, so I was on cloud 9. And then also, just like I said, the end of the year activities, I'm looking forward to graduations, Purple Cord. Top 10 was fantastic this year. We always provide the students the opportunity if they want to give a speech. And I think all 10 of them gave speeches. And they were very well thought out. Sometimes it's ums and ands, but they really worked through it. So I'm sure there was some behind the scenes that helped that happen. So I appreciate the work that the school did to make that happen. And then 2 more quick things. One is, as we celebrate the groundbreaking, one thing that we had talked about years back was, as we move into Roseville, expand the district, is looking into public relations, marketing for the district. So that's something I just want to put on the board's mind publicly, that we will be coming back with some stuff. I know Ms. Coronado and I talked about it the other day again, that we need to make sure we're marketing to make sure we capture our share of students there. So to be continued on that. And then finally, I don't know if she's watching or not, but she usually texts me and says, hey, the audio's not working, Julie Opfer. I just want to thank her for her years of service. Today she is on the agenda to be up for retirement. I'm very happy for her, sad for our loss, but happy for her. She's been a great advocate for kids, and the time she spent at Spinelli has been well worth it. And then Mr. Jackson, Steve also being on the list. He's not very good at golf, but no, he's actually much better than others that might play golf or might not play golf. But I wish, Steve and I have been through a lot over the years, from when he was at McClellan to Center High School to Dudley, and actually we started as coaches together for instructional coaches, and it's always a positive attitude and always what can we do for kids, and I've always appreciated that, Steve. So thank you for years of service, but I'm going to still try and beat you on the golf course. We don't get out enough, but when we do, I usually spend my time in the bushes, and Steve. So anyway, with that, I'm really looking forward to the end of the year activities, and we'll be into summer before we know it. So.
In your experience, what does it cost for us to put something on the ballot?
I would need to double check. I don't know.
You don't remember?
I don't remember.
You want to take a guess at it?
Carol might remember.
It's not very, it's thousands and thousands.
Well worth the cost. Let's discuss that at a later time. Now's not the time for that.
And Julie, if you're still there, we're going to miss you. I didn't realize you were retiring, but thank you so much.
And that concludes my report.
All right. Moving on to advanced planning, we have the board workshop coming up this Saturday, 9 a.m. to approximately noon. And we have a regular meeting Wednesday, May 18th at 6 p.m. Any requested agenda items?
Oh, I do have a comment on the equity workshop on the 23rd,
Sure.
if I may. I read the sample handout from CSEA with the edits by Dr. Lee, so thank you for doing that. However, I believe that the policy should be more of a statement or a broad statement of our beliefs and values, as opposed to a roadmap of policy or a roadmap of actions and procedures. As I read the handout, the implementations directly involve curriculum and instruction along with human resources. And if this is the will of the board to use this document, then I would suggest postponing the 23rd for the workshop. So the person, I think it was Dr. Lee, put this on the agenda so they could speak to these individuals to see what they've already implemented, what their goals are, and how they are approaching these goals, as opposed to assuming that there's nothing done. And then maybe use language like continue with or follow with, instead of all these, dot. It just seems so negative and harsh as opposed to a positive thing. So that's what I would suggest, is to maybe postpone, have a communication, because we can't really make actions and procedures if we don't know what's already been done or what is being done. We can't assume that nothing's being done. Does that make sense?
Point of clarification, I did not place that item on the agenda. That came from our superintendent and our governance workshops, where the consultant pointed out that we're one of the few districts that do not have an equity policy. So that's where that originated from. And their sample policy is from CSBA, and the policy that we're looking at with the edits to it are just to really sharpen what is our vision, because as a board, it is our charge to set the vision for this district, and that's why boards have been asked to come up with equity policies, from my understanding.
That's what I said, yes, to create a broad statement of our values and beliefs, but not implement actions or procedures at this time until we talk to the individuals at hand to see what they've already done or what they're doing to get to this point. And I apologize, I thought it was you that put it on.
Okay. I just wanted to say two little things. I think that there are two different components of the equity policy. There's an equity statement, which is what you're talking about as far as an overall statement or vision, and then there's an equity policy. So I think we can have those discussions this Saturday, whether or not things are already being done in the district. Defining what the policy is not saying that it's not being done. It's just saying this is what we'd like it to be, and then if they're already in alignment with that, that's great.
Well, you should talk to the individuals at hand first before you start setting up actions and procedures.
Yeah, so I admit I have not read the document yet, and so I can't really speak to that, but I think that having the meeting and just talking about what is it that we want as a board, and that may result in, yes, going back to the schools and saying, hey, what are you doing? This is what we have in mind.
It's not the schools.
Yeah, I mean, well, whatever, whatever you're talking, as far as going back to the staff and saying, this is what we have in mind. Does this sound like it aligns with what you're doing? Is this something that we can implement? It doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to set a policy and say, okay, here's the policy, deal with it. I think that it's just an open, the beginning of the conversation. But I don't know.
From my perspective, I think we should focus on the general policy and what the vision is, but not get bogged down into the implementation, because frankly, that's his role.
Yeah, that sounds a little strange, the implementation.
So, I think it's good to focus on the general goals and what we want without getting into the nitty-gritty.
since this isn't agendized, I guess we're all pretty much in violation of this kind of, but I'm just saying, I think we should go ahead and have the meeting on Saturday, and then we can discuss this stuff.
And for my 2 cents, you could, then with it agendized, you could sort that. Doesn't mean you have to or you don't have to do anything on Saturday, but it may be determined, I don't know if Ms. Pope or Ms. Kelly said that, but then the outcome might be, well, then we need more information. So I mean, I don't think that because having the meeting, it means we're gonna have to have we'll leave that day with the policy. We may not leave with the policy. You guys might be, wait, we need to think about this. And the other thing is, I would suggest whatever we create, then we bring it back to a regular meeting for consideration, so then public on a regular scheduled meeting will get an opportunity to see it. Does that make sense? Because if it's a board policy, really we're developing the policy as a group, not we, but the board is. And then once you get common language, you're going to want to bring that back to do your reading of that officially.
That makes sense to me. And we're not entering outside of things. We're focusing, we're discussing the scope of the future meeting.
That's true.
And for our next regular meeting, I'd like to see agendized an action item on the term resolution, the term limits resolution that I submitted this evening.
Okay. So regarding Saturday, do we still want to move forward with that then?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. It's my opinion.
Another future agenda item for next month's meeting. It was brought to our attention last month that we do not have a censure policy, which I just kind of assumed that we did, and that was a bad assumption. So I would like to have a discussion around that. I've found a policy from another similarly sized board that I've sent to Superintendent Ware, and I'd like to have that item on the agenda.
Is the board in California? Can you clarify that for us?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
I was specifically looking at California boards, and I was, in my initial search, I found a policy that was well written, but it was for a 7-person board, which changes things, so I started looking for 5-person boards.
Are you found a 5%?
Yes. I don't recall it off the top of my head which district it was.
In the Bay Area, but I don't want to say the wrong one.
So, any other future agenda items? Okay. We don't need to continue closed session, so do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And do we need a second on that?
I'll second.
Second? All right. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.